new set's about to drop, so I thought I'd give some advice and a deck profile for anyone who's trying to last minute grind. And I did use Havencraft. I got GM pretty early in the first half, so I'm just going to be GM in the second half. Haven't been playing too much. Not too much the second half, but it's pretty much been the same. The small buffs to Dragon and Puppet weren't the biggest thing. I do see a little more Puppet and Dragon than before, but it's overall been pretty much the same meta. I did reach GM multiple times in Shadowverse, and as you can see, I played plenty of matches. I'm not an expert, like I said before, but I'm pretty decent at this game, so I'd like to try to give any advice I can. So, if you look at the deck, it's pretty straightforward. Serene of Sanctuary is a pretty good card. It's what you're gonna be dropping on turn 1, turn 2. Obviously you can drop it later because it is just a 1-drop, but its value is biggest when you drop it early. It's used in order to search your deck for Marwyn or any other key pieces that you need, like a board clear. You'll want to drop it turn 1, and if you engage it, it comes on pretty early online on like turn 3, because turn 1 you'll place it down, turn 2 you'll engage it, turn 3 you'll get the draw. If you can drop 2 on turn 2, it becomes a curse and a blessing, right? Like, depending on the order how you do it. If you drop Serene on turn 1, then drop another one on turn 2, and then you've engaged 1, you'll be able to get the draw from 1, and the other one will count down. And if you don't use the cards in your hand before the next one engages, you will overdraw. And if you overdraw, you'll hate to have overdrawn Marwyn, because that is the whole reason you run this deck. If you overdraw Marwyn, it's gonna suck, because then you'll have to search for only 2 others in your deck, and searching for 2 in your deck instead of 3 can lose you the game sometimes. I've had all 3 of my Marwyns still in my deck at 15 cards left. It's RNG, it's a card game, but it happens. So any way to prevent yourself from not overdrawing is the best, but it is still a very good card. It's what you need in order to go through your deck. But there's plenty of different ways to overdraw, so it is the biggest issue in this deck, I feel, or getting rushed down before you can get your healer removal, because Blinding Faith at Enhance will draw you 3. This obviously draws you 2, and if you stack, then you can get up to 4 or 6 on your own card, but then it's just too much, and then you will definitely overdraw. And then Congregant is another draw, so this deck has no issue drawing most of the time. It's about hand management. That is the biggest issue. As for Divinity Repose, he's a pretty good card. At the end of the day, he is a 0/4, so he's going to be like a chump blocker if you get his crest and don't attack, so he will have ward. But he is just a chump block, so that means he will get run over by nearly everyone as a 0/4, but it is a pretty good card, and it's the only thing you can do at turn 1 and 2. Serene and the ability of Propose are your only means of doing anything early on. Grimnir and something in Repose will only happen turn 3 onward, and if you're going second, you can use your coin or your extra play point, but the thing is, if you do that, then you don't have the extra play point to either Repose if you need to do it early, or Wilbur, because if you can, you'd like to use your coin on Wilbur if you can, because if you can coin Wilbur and you're not facing Dragon, then you can probably get his last word to go off, which would be really nice. We mainly use him for the crest, but if you could actually not get Odin, then that's probably what you want to do. Or if you need the Unholy Vessel, it is basically Dark Hole for this deck, and the extra play point is pretty good. But sometimes you just really need a ward and you have nothing else, so using that coin is pretty nice. We'll skip over Maddening Medicine for now because it's more of a late game kind of thing. As for Gremir, this is what you want to drop on turn 3. You want to drop it. You want to drop it at least before you drop Marwyn. The reason being is Gremir will deal 2 damage to the board if you have a super evolved unit, and because of that, it allows you to board clear followers easier before Marwyn damage comes on. His damage allows it to hit face, but if there are followers, it's just going to split the damage. So any means of killing or doing damage to followers before Marwyn procs is what you want to do. So getting Gremir early is the plan. Supplement Repose is really good. She provides that 1 heal. This 1 heal can prevent certain lethals or just keep you topped up so that you're not in lethal range. One of the bigger threats is like you're getting poked down and then loot or mid-range brings down an Albert and he swings for 12 to face. But if you have 13 just because of the 1 heal from Supplicant Repose, it can really save you sometimes. You have plenty of heal in the forms of Temple Repose, Dose of Holiness, Maddening Medicine, and Blinding Faith if you do the Enhance, and lastly, Shining Disenchantment. But the heal that you're mostly gonna get is Supplicant Repose, and very rarely Gelnies from the Drain. Maddening Medicine is the one that you're gonna use the most to recover, but there is a trick so that you don't take this crest, because crest is the reason why you can lose or win some games. Simply because you take the 10 damage, you can prevent the 10 damage by having 5 crests. So it's very important to have 5 crests before you use this, so it's just a free 10 heal. But sometimes you're in some scenarios where you need to use it early, and that becomes your downfall sometimes, because you either do it early and you end up in a scenario where you're on a clock, your own, but you have to do it offensively. Like if you're a 9 HP and you will die, knowing the board state and what your opponent can do, sometimes you just have to Maddening Medicine, and because of that, you are on a clock yourself. So that's why we sometimes have the Temple Repose in order to prevent ourselves from dying to our own Maddening Medicine, plus it gives us a heal. But that's not always guaranteed. Temple Repose gives us some protection from things like the Forest OTK and fellow Forest Havencraft players, that do damage to ourselves because the barrier will protect us. However, if your opponent has a super evo and you have a unit on field, then sometimes that's just pretty mute. It doesn't do anything, but it's good to have the option just in case. Another thing for Maddening Medicine is that you can use the Torment Despair that you get from Marwyn to postpone the crest. So that's why there's a lot of dynamics in which Maddening Medicine is your biggest heal in this deck, and the one that you're going to use definitely, but it's probably not the one that is going to happen the most often. It's going to be more calculated or used defensively, offensively. It just depends on the scenario. The reason why you'd use it offensively is if you need an extra crest and you know you're going to win, it just provides an extra crest, and if you have the torrent, then you can stall it and not worry about that. Either way, even if you use it and sometimes you have to take the 10 damage, you can easily heal up. It's just a matter of what the game state is. So that's why Supplicant is a really good, reliable heal. Sometimes it's probably the crest you want the most often to have with the countdown, because it's not a permanent. Gremir is a permanent. Marwyn, who we're going to talk about next, is a permanent, and Wilbert is a permanent. These are your 3 staple crests, and they're the ones that you're going to want to have every game, for sure. So Marwyn, he's the GOAT. He's the reason why we play the deck. You definitely want to save your Evo for him. This is the Evo that's most relevant in the deck. No matter what, you need to Evo this one. Even if you're dying, sometimes you just really need to Evo him, unless you have to switch to going aggro, because then that's a different plan, that's a different scenario. That means that we're in a desperate situation. Marwyn, his crest basically deals damage to the opponent based on how many crests that we have, and it will prioritize followers. So that's why we have the Grimnir to go, deal 2 damage first if we have a Super Evo. We have the Blinding Faith. We have the Unholy Vessel. These are just all means of board clearing alongside Shining Disenchantment if we're desperate, but we'll talk about that later. This is the reason why this whole deck functions, and you just need to get him. That's why overdrawing is an issue, because if you overdraw Marwyn, the deck can be in a pretty bad scenario. And on to Shining Disenchantment. Like I said, it's a pretty good board clear. Like, it does 4 damage, and it heals you for 4, so it is a heal. But the biggest thing is you want this damage to hit face. And just like Marwyn, it'll prioritize followers, so you'll want to board clear first and then use this, so that you can even do 9 damage to face if you have all 5 crests. The biggest issue is that sometimes you need to board clear, so it's okay. Sometimes you'll proc this and it'll be more damage still, because you'll proc this for 4 and board clear anything that's on the field, and then the crest will still do 5 damage. But sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes you are in scenarios where 4 damage is all you're going to get, so sometimes you'll attack on purpose, not use the crest, and just use Shining Disenchantment. Yeah, Shining Disenchantment is used in order to be able to OTK. If you can drop 2 on a previous turn and not use them, not get them cleared, you could probably drop both of them. If you can clear the board, you drop 8, you get Gilneas with her Sweetness of Veracity, that is 5, and then with crest damage is another 5. Just all that together is 18 damage. If you poke them twice, and then it's just GG, they're dead. So it is part of an OTK scenario. It is just a dream scenario though, so most of the time you want to use it. Obviously, like you said before, it's either going to be board clear, but we'd like to be able to use it to kill our opponent, or at least soften them up so that we can kill them with our crest damage. And now we can circle back to Gilneas, because like we said, this is like probably the best card in the deck that isn't based on 4 game plan. She's a neutral, and I think basically the Odin of the set, to be honest, because Odin is like probably the best neutral in this entire game. But I think Gilneas is arguably right next to him, right? Because she has so much utility. This -2 on her effect is a means of board clearing. If any unit, like an Odin, drops that didn't get a wall down all, she just basically clears him. The +2 is a means for us to attack, and if she just super walls herself, she can heal us for 5 with Drain. Not to mention, she facilitates our game plan with the Sweetness of Veracity. If you end up dropping 2 on 1 turn, and your opponent doesn't kill you, you can use it back to back, and if they're at 10 points, you kill them right then and there. You drop 2, bop, bop, that's 10. So she's got healing for us, she's got removal, she also has the potential to kill, like if we have one of Wilbert's soldiers and then they didn't bother to clear them and they're in kill range, like if they're at 7 and they don't think we can kill them because they think a super evolved soldier will be only 5, we just Gilneas, and then that's 7, and then if we have 2, just for insult to injury, we just drop 2 and then we swing for 9. So she's pretty good in all aspects: healing, damage, pushing for damage, and removal in some scenarios. So that's why she's probably one of the most key pieces next to Marwyn. And then we come to Himika. She's pretty good. She's another crest that we can use. Sometimes we run out of our countdown crests. We have to rotate between devotee and repose and congregate, and sometimes we run out of one of them while we're climbing up, because if we have to devotee early, we're probably losing it. If we devotee after Grimnir, sometimes we can keep it for as long as we need it, but ultimately we'll be at 4 most of the time. So having Himika is sometimes nice because she can board clear too. Utilizing her super evolve effect, it will be in the way of Marwyn and does clash, but the main issue is there are boards that we cannot clear with Unholy Vessel, like pesky zombies from Abyss, or if they steal our Wilbur, we'd rather banish it with her effect than proccing the last word. So sometimes we'll skip the crescent damage just so we don't have to deal with those pesky last words, and that's why she's pretty good as just a one of. Just a backup crest that we need just when we eventually need to lose. One of our previous crests, Torrent, does really good in keeping crest countdown up, but it can only do so much and we will eventually just lose out on one. That's why we have to rotate between them, and having this as a backup plan is pretty nice. And she's just super good. I wish I could run her at 3, but then she just becomes too cloggy. So 2 is perfectly fine in this deck, and she can push to kill sometimes. Just giving a +2 on top of Wilbert's +1, like that's 3 to, let's say they couldn't clear a Holy Calvary. That's like 2 4s, and then on top of that they can super evolve, and then you could Gilneas one. It's just a lot of damage. In some scenarios it's just enough to kill, and if most of the time most opponents don't anticipate us going for face, but it's very much viable when we're always trying to soften them up. They can be easily in range just to kill. So always be aware that we're not always relying on Marwyn to do the finishing touch, and look out for Gilneas plays or John plays. And your super evolves are important in order to use Grimnir. And let's just get on to evolving. So evolving is pretty tight in this deck. You want to evolve for Marwyn, and you want to evolve for Wilbur, and then your super evolves, like you want one for Himika just in case, but this is just a backup plan, so it's not always a guarantee. But it sometimes sucks to have Himika and not have a super evolve, because then you can't board clear those boards that you really needed it for. And Congregant is another Evo, so right there, that's 3 of your Evos, right? Right here, right here, right here, that you're guaranteed to be using. And then Himika you'd like to use, because this is a super Evo, this is not flexible. So at least 2 of them you're gonna need to use on Wilbur and Marwyn for permanence. And so it gets pretty tight, but you shouldn't be afraid to use them as long as you can get these 2, most definitely. Congregant is the best way to search for Marwyn if you don't have them yet, so that's probably 3. So as you can see, it is pretty tight on the Evos. So be aware on when you use them and how you use them, but you can use them to lethal, obviously, just don't miss it. Don't miss lethal. I've missed lethal multiple times, but you gotta keep out for when you have enough damage on board. So yeah, that's pretty much the deck profile. Season is about to be ending soon, but if you have any questions in the on the deck, you can just ask them and hopefully I'll be able to respond to them. And sometimes this deck isn't enough. Sometimes I just get rushed down too much, so then I'll switch to my crest or ward variant, sorry. And over here it's almost the same. There is some tweaks, right? Like we have the bell ringer as Udo Harada, you know. She's you gotta evolve her, right? She's gotta win the race, but and then we have the Divine Guard as another means of board clear. But in this deck, you have Marwyn as a backup plan, not the main focus, because in this deck you want to make big boards with Wilbur, with Aether effect giving another +2 on her aura, and John giving the +2, and just hitting face and using Marwyn to soften them up. It's the Knight of Holy Order is our heal, because we're not running the Magni Benison in this deck. And so Sylphane is also our board clear, dealing 3 and healing for 3. We have the Blinding Faith for right before her, but sometimes she comes out a little too late. Conquering it is whenever crests, Marwyn's a crest, Repose is a crest, Grimnir's a crest, and then Wilfred's a crest. So we just barely have enough to fulfill the 5 requirement. That's why Marwyn is definitely a backup plan in this deck. So, but it is a nice variation and change up if you have all the cards. It is a lot of legendaries, but it is a pretty nice change up when you're getting rushed down right before your heals. And sometimes it's just nice to do face damage instead and not have to change your whole class. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can just put them in the comment section and I'll try to answer them if I can. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.